Welcome to Fairness and Scarcity, the bioethics case for prioritizing liver transplants. To begin, we will start with the core question of should patients with alcohol-related end-stage liver disease compete equally for liver transplants? Well, as you will see as I present this case, I will refer back to the article of Moss and Ziegler, Should Alcoholics Compete Equally? While Medicare suggests equal access, Moss and Ziegler argue for a lower priority ranking for ARESLD patients. How will they accomplish this, or how do they accomplish this? Well, to begin, we have the foundation of the argument. I will be defining a few key terms to the right of this slide to make sure that you understand what it means. Now, to discuss the foundation of the argument. It is important to break the article into premises/arguments and conclusions. The article, Should Alcoholics Compete Equally for Liver Transplantation, argues that patients with alcohol-related end-stage liver disease should have a lower priority for transplants compared to those with non-behavioral liver diseases. The authors base this idea on the absolute scarcity of donor lives and principle of personal responsibility. This is because alcoholism is a treatable condition after all. It is caused by individuals, and they should be held accountable for seeking treatment to prevent these life-threatening complications that arise, unlike people who have critical needs or genetic issues. One of our core dilemmas is the dilemma of fairness/equity. This idea is that every human life has equal value and everyone deserves an equal shot at a transplant. Well, in this article, it is said that there are arguments that in a world of scarcity, it is fair to prioritize those whose conditions was not caused by voluntary and preventative behaviors, such as smoking, perhaps, alcoholism. Now that we have looked at the individual medical arguments, we have to zoom out and look at the bigger picture, policy and public support. In bioethics, we do not just look about the patient in the room, we also care for the survival of the system. So my first point, we will talk about public approbation. Unlike other medical treatments, liver transplantation is unique because it relies entirely on the public's willingness to donate. If the public loses faith in the fairness of the system, donation rates could drop. It's very fragile, and it is built on trust. For my second point, this brings us to a very difficult point regarding the maintaining of trust. There's a perception that scarce organs are being wasted on patients who may return to drinking, and it also creates a crisis for the medical community. If we want to keep the donation pool large, the system often feels pressure to prove that every organ is going to the best candidate possible. Finally, we also have the acknowledgement of the economic target. The transplantation is an incredibly expensive technology. To make sure that our continued government funding and institutional support keeps going, the programs must remain beyond reproach. They must prove that they're responsible and that they are making investments of societal resources in a great way. While the policy arguments we just discussed are put in place to focus on the survival of the transplant system, many bioethics raise the major objection. They also argue that targeting patients with alcohol-related disease unfairly singles them out. Our first point, as you can see, is a point of fault. The first objection is that if we lower the priority to these patients because their illness was self-inflicted, we are not being consistent. We do not lower the priority for heart patients who ate a high cholesterol diet, for example, or someone who fell from a hike. If we start using a fault as a metric for medical care, the system begins to crumble. On another hand, we also have this slide highlighting that alcoholism is a very complicated medical condition. It is not just a moral failing. Genetic predisposition and environmental factors can play a massive role. In bioethic talk, it is fair to punish a patient for a condition that has a heavy biological basis? Is it or is it not? Many argue that doing this is a form of medical discrimination. And then lastly, we have our fairness rule. As you can see, our conclusion reaches and finalizes with a verdict.